Hey everybody, good to talk to you again. I'm Ari Temkin, and this is Phantom. Even if the Cowboys aren't going to be great, we can still be great talking about the game. I'm Ari Temkin, this is Phantom. We're putting you at the center of the Dallas sports discussion. Great to have you with us on this Tuesday, so thank you everybody for being a part of today's show. If this is your first time, well, thank you for checking this out. If you've been here before, good to have you back. Already seeing some of our community, and if you're new to this, then that's what we're doing here with Phantom, putting you at the Dallas center of the Dallas sports discussion by creating a community built around your interaction, your thoughts, your feelings, and on and on and on. So thank you all for being a part of that each and every single day. Hit the share button if you have not yet already. We're going to get down to brass tacks here, and obviously a tremendous amount of blame to go around, probably centered most of it on the quarterback and the head coach, which we'll get into. But first and foremost, hit the share button, post your comments. Cody Arnold says the beard is coming back. It is, slowly but surely. Looks like a 5 o'clock shadow, whatever they call it right now. G. Garcia says, what's up? Alec Cash in the house. Dakota Stiegel in the house. David Alejandre says, only here to support Ari. Appreciate you, buddy. Let's see here. Diego Maista says, feeling sick from the loss. David Alejandre, poor play calling and poor execution of the poor play calling. All they have to do is execute better. That's what we always hear Jason Garett say. And in that case, I think David Alejandre is absolutely right on. Eric Kashani says, it's a done deal. The season is over. Hard to disagree with that after what we've seen. Henry Munoz, Linehan's BS play calling is a joke. Garrett's coaching is a joke. They need to be gone before the offseason. All right, so Cowboys lose 28-14 to the Tennessee Titans last night on Monday Night Football. And it was an absolute disaster from a standpoint of the first 15 minutes were absolutely perfect for the Cowboys. What happened after the first 15 minutes, though, was an absolute disaster for the Dallas Cowboys. And Dak Prescott was bad, 21 of 31, 240 some odd yards, but had had the interception and the fumble, 2 turnovers. 2 extremely costly turnovers when you consider the Cowboys were +2 in the turnover margin. So Prescott, a lot of the time, either looked confused, obviously took 5 sacks, and a lot of those are not on the offensive line, as we've talked about all year. It's part offensive line, but in some cases, it's a huge part of the blame goes to Dak Prescott and just not having a good feel for the rush or good internal clock. You know, those kinds of things that we don't really think about with quarterbacks, but obviously when you see it not happen, you know that it's wrong. And that's certainly something that's hampered Dak all season, and certainly yesterday. So a lot of the responsibility for this loss falls on the plate of Dak Prescott, unequivocally. There's just no way around that. But a huge piece of this, too, falls at Jason Garrett's feet. And I think to delineate, to kind of come up with a distinction between where does the responsibility for the loss go, where does it fall, a big part of it falls in Dak Prescott, a big part of it falls in Jason Garett. But because Dak Prescott is only in year 3, and even though I'm sure a lot of people are done with Dak Prescott, I think most people on their priority list would say number 1 is Jason Garett. He is at the forefront of the blame for what went wrong last night and what's gone wrong through the first 8 games of this season for the Dallas Cowboys. And that's kind of where I am too. There is so many excuses. There's so many people and coaches that have gone down as blameless, or rather as the bulk of the blame for the Cowboys and their misfortunes, especially in recent history. It goes back to Jason Garett, a guy that somehow sort of defers away from responsibility, despite the fact that he should be the most responsible party in all of this. And I mean, look, it's been enough time to know that Jason Garrett's flaws are damning, and that is really it. I mean, to me, we could sit here and second-guess play calling, and I would certainly be happy to do so. We could sit here and second-guess all different kinds of things, but it's just a fundamental basis of, like, this is not the way that modern football goes, and that's where I am with Jason Garett. Like, we can sit here and second-guess little itty-bitty things in here or there, but the full principle remains. This is not how you coach and scheme football in 2018. This is not the 1990s. You are not Jimmy Johnson, and this is not the triplets. This is not a Super Bowl caliber franchise. It was in the 90s, but this is a far cry from that organization. And the more they try to go back to the 90s and talk about the success of the 90s and duplicating that, it's It's a fool's errand for multiple reasons, but the 90s are gone. The way you play football in the 90s is gone. And obviously, they just don't have the right smarts in coaching or in any capacity to pull off what they did in the 90s. And to blatantly disregard the pieces of this current organization that have allowed this to get to the point where it is today, like that, it seems like this organization is completely and utterly tone deaf to its own faults. And it's unbelievable. It really, truly is, guys. I think we heard quotes from Jerry Jones early on this season that sort of indicated he was getting frustrated. What we heard from Jerry Jones last night and today on 105 to the Fan speaks to a complete and utter tone deafness for what the situation with the Dallas Cowboys is. It's absurd to view it any differently. This is a rudderless ship with a bad coach who doesn't know how to coach in the modern NFL. That's why you have an offense that scores 19 points a game. And they just went out and traded a first-round draft pick in order to improve their offense, and we didn't even see it. We saw 15 minutes of it and then nothing. And meanwhile, on the other side, we saw a Tennessee Titans team that is as bad offensively as the Cowboys without any weapons, and anything close to Amari Cooper, that took a bunch of no-name guys that nobody had ever heard of and had big-time performances out of them on Monday Night Football. It was the exact opposite of the Cowboys. I never heard of John Carter. Was that his name? The tight end that had 58 yards receiving and a touchdown. It was just incredible how you look on one side of the football and there's a bunch of guys that nobody knows, a bunch of no-name guys as weapons for the Tennessee Titans that are getting it done, moving the ball, converting on third down, scoring touchdowns. On the other end, there's a bunch of guys you've heard of, and they're not able to scheme and get these guys in position to be successful. It's absurd. It's what we continue to see, and this is basically the root of this. This is not how you win football in 2018. At the root of that is you have a coaching staff that is completely unwilling to cater their schemes to fit the skill set of their players. After the game of the postgame show last night, we had Brad Sham on, voice of the Cowboys, and I brought up that Jason Garett went to the podium and said, the first thing he said was, well, I thought we did some good things. That's what he said. As tone deaf as that sounds, it's great. It's what Jason Garett does, right? Like, it's completely on brand for Jason Garett. Walk out there and tell me that it's not raining, even though the sky is black and it's pouring rain. But so I asked Brad Sham about that, and he's like, "Well, I mean, you can't, look." And I've talked about this, right? Like, that's not Jason Garrett's being even keeled, clapping, those kinds of things that we don't like. Those aren't the reason he's a bad coach. I agree with that. They're not the reasons he's a bad coach. There are a lot of good coaches that have had that kind of a demeanor. But Brad Sham was saying, he's trying to project this aura like he's learned about this from Nick Saban and Bill Belichick. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I get it. I see it. But I mean, so it's this idea of he's acting like he's the smartest guy in the room, and for Belichick and Nick Saban, it works because they are the smartest guys in the room. But for Jason Garett, it's like you're the fool. You're the one that looks like the fool, and you're trying to play it off like you're the smartest one in the room, like you know more. So you're going to be condescending and withholding of information or of any sort of genuine answer whatsoever to make it look like you're the smartest guy in the room, but you look like a buffoon. You're a buffoon with a degree from Princeton. These are things that I know nothing about football relative to football coaches, and these are things that it's so obvious to see. They had an inline tight end in Jason Witten. That's a good inline tight end. That's a good position to have. They lose Jason Witten, and they continue to have that position. Okay, well, Jeff Swaim's developed into a pretty decent inline tight end. Good job. Now he's injured. So they insist on continuing to use that inline tight end. You don't have the personnel to do it. You have to evolve your schemes to fit your personnel. They're just doing whatever they do and hoping that the guys that they can plug in will fit and fill those roles, and they're not. Dalton Schultz is not an inline tight end. Neither is Blake Jarwin or Rico Gathers. And that's what they insist on doing. It's infuriating. Dak Prescott, this scheme does not fit Dak Prescott. Now you can argue that Dak Prescott's not the guy that you should be investing hundreds of $1,000,000 in, and I agree with you 100%. But at the end of the day, this offense does not fit the skill set of Dak Prescott. That's it. You know what Bill Belichick does better than anybody other than being disingenuous in the media and withholding information? He fits his schemes to the skill set of his players. He evolves his schemes to fit the skill set of his players. That's what he does. That's what he's done for a long period of time. That's what great coaches do. Coaches that can't do that suck. I mean, not everything that went wrong for the Cowboys this game last night was their fault. I mean, they had a sack on a third down. They got off the field, but the Titans ended up getting a timeout before the play. There was some interesting penalties. But the Cowboys, once again, cannot overcome mistakes and once again cannot evolve within a game. And once again, we hear Jason Garett walk up to the podium, talk about all the things they did that was good, then all the things they didn't do that was good, and just line by line listing off the things that went wrong. And then, of course, he hits them with and we're going to watch film and fix it. There's a lot of watching film for the Dallas Cowboys coaching staff. There's not a lot of fixing the issues. Ian Goldberg in the house says, wow, Code Red, so depressed today. We need to chat on my Cowboys family with you, Ari. This team, front office, and especially coaching are performing horrible, and this is unacceptable. David Alejandre, there's been no adjustments throughout the game on the offensive side. Or anywhere. Game to game, within a game, in any capacity whatsoever. The Cowboys just have this idea of we're just going to out-execute you and we're going to win that way. Anthony Mucci says, you're so on point. I'm so glad to hear someone say this JG is a joke. I mean, when you look at modern NFL offenses putting up 40, 50 points, you look at the Rams, you look at the Saints. My God, the Bears put up 41 points this past week. You look at modern offenses. Look at Oklahoma's offense. Look at Texas Tech's offense. You're looking at really, really innovative, smart, creative offenses. When you look at the Cowboys, you're looking at the same offense they've run for 10 years and a new quarterback that the skill set doesn't fit the profile of what they're trying to run, and they're still trying to do it. It's trying to force a square peg into a round hole. Freddie Dominguez says the team doesn't believe in Garrett or the offensive coordinator, seems like it, or the quarterback. I mean, Dak played bad. There's no way to, like, the thing is, I'm asking you to tell me who to blame, Garrett or the quarterback, and it's a trick question because they're both equal in blame. Jason Garrett's full of blame because all he does is somehow defer responsibility for this team's shortcomings and this organization's shortcomings, despite the fact that he's the one guy in the middle of this making decisions, and yet it's always positional coaches or coordinators or players. It's somebody else's fault. It certainly isn't Jason Garrett's fault. How could it be? He's willing to work with Jerry Jones. Barry Griffith in the house. What's up, Barry? How are you? Good to see you last night. Olin Henderson says, man, how y'all going to let that man disrespect the star? And that's Byard. I believe this was just one of 5, including T.O. There's been 5 other instances where players go and celebrate at the star. I don't know how all they've gone, but certainly this was Byard having the interception, then going to the star was indicative of this season, this game, this team. Byron Jones was not even on the field, and he ran out to knock the guy off the star. I mean, it's ridiculous that the only guy that showed any heart, in a sense, was a guy that wasn't even on the field at that point. And I'm not really sure that anybody else even knew that was happening. Jerry Jones and Jason Garrett included. Garrett, I'm sure, was just off clapping to the side. It's really just, it's so tiresome. Because I agree, the way that he projects himself in this Bill Belichickian way, that doesn't make him a bad coach. It's the bad coaching that makes him a bad coach. But then it's the hearing him project this aura of Belichickian that just makes you want to pull your hair out. You know, the way I often describe Jason Garett as a coach is with the old saying, dress for the job you want. You're all familiar with that saying, yes? Dress for the job you want. That's Jason Garett as a head coach. That's Jason Garett personified. He projects the aura of the coach he'd like to be, despite the fact that he's not a good coach. You know, he has a fatal flaw, which is he believes it is a weakness to deviate. He is consistently sticking to what he does, and he is unwavering in his belief that that's the way to go. But I mean, like, evolve or die. It seems so basic, and yet it's so elusive for Jason Garett and this Dallas Cowboys front office. And yet we've heard at times Jerry talk about criticisms for Jason Garett. And now, after this latest loss, it's like Jerry Jones is talking about everything's fine. We're going to stay the course and be fine. It's like everything is not fine. It's inexcusable for this offense with that talent to be putting up this kind of an output. Now, granted, it was only a few days with Amari Cooper, so there is time to grow. But they're 3-5. They're 2 games out of it, and so far through 8 games, now 2 quarters of the season. What do we know about this team? Their offense is bad, and their defense is starting to quit. That's what I see. How else can you explain it? Their defense comes up with 2 big turnovers in the red zone. The Cowboys have 7 points. And then after that, the Cowboys are giving up third down conversions at will. It seems like the Cowboys defense is quitting because the offense isn't holding up its end of the bargain, which is something that inevitably happens in sports when you've got a one side of the ball that's resentful of the other side. They're not going to say that's the truth, but it is. You have 3 turnovers. Rather, you have 2 turnovers and 3 opportunities in the red zone, and you have 7 points. You're not going to win that football game. G. Garcia says, I'm done talking about the Cowboys. G2G. Don't go, G. Stay. It's therapy. This is therapy for everybody. Ninja Nut says nothing was wrong with Amari Cooper. He did good. Dak has to stop staring him down the whole way. Robert Reyes on the Dallas Cowboys America's team page says, I hope he and Dak are gone. David Licht says Cooper did more than the entire defense. It's fair. I mean, Cooper was our player of the game on the Dallas Cowboys postgame show. He had a really good half. He had a really good first quarter. 2 receptions, 15 yards, and a touchdown in the first quarter. 58 yards, I think 4 receptions, 58 yards, and a touchdown. And I think all of those receptions came in the first half. Tyson, West Coast Cowboy in the house. What up, Tyson? Asking everybody, and Tyson, obviously I'd like to get your opinion on this, but Cowboys lose 28-14 to the Titans on Monday Night Football. Easily the most disappointing loss of the season for this organization, of this team, especially considering when it happened and how it happened. The question here is thumbs up if you're blaming Jason Garett for this loss, or a heart emoji if you're blaming the quarterback, Dak Prescott. To cut to the chase, a lot of the loss last night has to be put at the feet of Dak Prescott. 2 turnovers, 3 red zone opportunities, 7 points, careless with the football at times, has no ability to feel the rush, took way too many sacks that were on him and on the offensive line. Dak Prescott played really, really poorly last night. But Jason Garett and his tired old offensive schemes, his unwavering ability, his unwavering offense, the inability to change and evolve. He continues to use inline tight ends, even though he doesn't have the personnel to do it. He doesn't have Dak Prescott running the right type of offense. It is not an offense that fits his skill set. At this point of his development, he is not a multiple read quarterback. He can't sit back in the pocket and read the field. So that's what he's trying to do, and his clock is ticking, and so he's trying to figure out how much time he's got, and he's still trying to keep his eyes downfield. There's too many things that he's thinking about, and so he's got to be more simplistic, easy reads, one read, and that you might be saying, well, in year 3, that's not good enough for the development of a quarterback. And I think that's fair, but at this point, you've got to scheme to the skill set of your players. And right now, the Cowboys are running the same offense that they've run for a very long period of time with a few new wrinkles here or there, but it's the same damn offense. Jenna Garcia in the house. Jenna, how are you? Tyson West Coast Cowboys says Titans scored 14 points off the turnovers, and the Cowboys scored 7 off the 2 turnovers. Anthony Evans says, man, I need both buttons. Garrett, Dak, Linehan, Jerry Jones, Waterboy, equipment manager, stadium construction crew, tear all that bleep down. Hey, Anthony, that stadium crew does a fantastic job. But yeah, I mean, agreed. It's both blame Garrett and the quarterback. It's hard to look at that game objectively and not see the faults of both the head coach, who, again, it's a fatal flaw to not design your schematics to fit the skill set of the players, and that's exactly what they have. I don't know why you can't, instead of using an inline tight end, who you don't really have, you're using Dalton Schultz to block for you when he's not a good blocker. There was a play on their first drive. It was a major reason why they ended up settling for a field goal, where Dalton Schultz is trying to block the interior of that line to seal that hole, and because he misses, the linebacker steps right up to the hole and makes a play behind the line of scrimmage. It was a 2nd and 4 handoff, and then now it turns into a 3rd and 6. They can't convert on a 3rd and 6 and kick a field goal that they missed. Just use 4 wide. Why do you need to use a tight end? It's ridiculous. Checking the Dallas Cowboys report page. Shout out to everybody watching this across the Dallas Cowboys report. Terrence Short says laughing emoji for management. Ken Wells says Dak holding the ball too long. He should run enough to slow the pass rush. Collins and Connor Williams were getting badly beat. I mean, sure. I mean, I don't think the offensive line was blameless, but again, you have this balance between blaming the offensive line and blaming the quarterback for not getting rid of the football. And I think that there were instances in which you've got to blame the quarterback for not getting rid of the football. Like blatant examples of that. You can't sit in the pocket for 6 seconds and expect that you're going to have forever to throw. Get rid of the ball. Throw it away. Take a chance or run. Flee the pocket. And then you have Jerry Jones going 105 through the fan this morning like, yeah, Dak's our guy. We're going to extend him. Like, really? After that performance, you're going to go with that? Now, granted, he didn't say for how much. So it's important to know how much they're going to extend him for. Maybe they can get a bargain deal for him with a new head coach. Maybe not the worst move in the world, but it's probably not the best thing to say when your quarterback just put up the empty yards that he just put up and that prevent defense that he, puts up 243 yards passing, but 50 or 60 of those yards came in garbage time where they're playing prevent defense against you. Empty yards. Trying to catch up on as many comments as I possibly can. I'm Ari Temkin. You can catch me streaming live every day right here at 12 Central on Phantom, putting you at the center of the Dallas sports discussion. This is our community that we've built with Cowboys fans. Just therapy. Therapy is in session today. So hit the share button if you've not yet already. Post your comments. Tell me what you think. Your honest opinion of this team, this franchise, where they're going. Optimism, pessimism, and everything in between. I've stayed pretty firm on I believe that Jason Garett will be fired if they miss the playoffs. So certainly the silver lining in last night's game, if you're a Cowboys fan that doesn't like Jason Garett, which I'm assuming is all of you, would be that, well, they're close. Every loss brings them 1 loss closer to firing Jason Garett. But there's also that balance there between, like, they don't have a first-round pick anymore. So part of why you make the move to bring in Amari Cooper is because you think that's the type of move that gets you over the hump to make you a playoff team. At the very least, win 8 games. But, I mean, you start to be in the conversation of winning 5, 6 games, and all of a sudden, trading a first-round pick looks worse and worse. Especially when you consider that it's probably important for this team to be drafting a quarterback in the first round. On the Dallas Cowboys America's team page, Ross McCaden says, I want to see Dak with someone else calling plays that does more than run every first down. Daniel Griffith says Garrett needs to be gone today. TJ Del Bruges says stop buying Cowboys gear and tickets and make JJ put a better team on the field. Patrick Prescott says, Ari, if I lived in Dallas, we would meet up with a bottle of Don Julio. Can't watch this quarterback and coach anymore. Cliff Shank in the house. What's up, Cliff Shank? How are you? Neil Favre says, the best word I can think of as a fan is tired. Tired of complaining about the same complaints. That's fair. I mean, this is not a new conversation with Jason Garett. We didn't just learn this. The thing that's sort of, like the thing that I said leading up to this game was Dak Prescott's going to be better. Of course he will. You add a legitimate number one wideout, it's going to make him a better quarterback. The question is whether or not you're willing to pay him $100 million because he can overcome having issues at offensive line or having issues across his receiving core, having issues in the running game. Like, that's why you pay guys hundreds of millions of dollars to be quarterback. Kurt Warner, we had him on the pregame show yesterday. He knows a thing or two about quarterback in the NFL. I mean, he said you pay a guy $100 million as a quarterback to put everything on his right arm. Now, Kurt Warner played with some good offenses and good teams, but the point remains, right? You've got to have a quarterback that can lift up the players around him and make everybody else better. You can't have a quarterback that needs everything to be perfect in order for the quarterback to be effective. Oh, and by the way, the quarterback wasn't even effective when everything was perfect or more perfect. I mean, they have Zeke Elliott, Amari Cooper, Cole Beasley's a really good route runner, one of the most underrated receivers in the game. That's not enough? The offensive line's bad? I mean, what do you need? In 2014, they had Tyron Smith, Zach Martin, and Travis Frederick were all first-team All-Pros. Ron Leary and Doug Free were second or third-team All-Pros. Zeke Elliott was first-team All-Pro. Like in 2014? So not 2016. 2014, they had like 4 or 5 All-Pros on their offense, and they won one playoff game. It's just insane that that's not the responsibility of the head coach. It's just insane to me that it's like, no, it's got to be something else. It's got to be a coordinator or a positional coach. You know, even now, it's like blaming Kellen Moore. Like, that just seems so disingenuous to reality. What happened to my shirt here? My shirt was going, there we go. Just mixing of colors. I don't know what it was. Steve Easton need a coach to call fresh new plays. Yeah, I mean, they need. TJ Carpenter says Dez Bryant is available. Ha ha ha. Keith Jones says, you should start banning people you say bring Dez or Romo back. I should. In this case, though, TJ Carpenter was just making it funny. But that is still bannable. Zach Rosenberg says, well, you can't fire the GM. True. And look, I've said this a lot. I mean, this organization is in a different position organizationally than it was 15 years ago, with Jerry Jones sort of sitting on his throne, making decisions with full autonomy. I mean, now there is sort of other pieces in place that help say no to him. But Jason Garett has to bear the responsibility for this season. He has to. Otherwise, the complaints about Jerry Jones are legitimate. I mean, Jerry's comfortable with Jason Garett because Jason Garett they have a great relationship. And it's the type of relationship that Jerry really wants. And at his age, does he want to start over with a new regime? Well, I mean, it's not about you, Jerry, although I know Jerry doesn't agree with that. But, I mean, you have apathy. There is general fan apathy. And if they keep Jason Garett, man, that fan apathy is going to be at a fever pitch. Ricky Madrano says, all jokes aside, Romo will perform better than Dak right now. And you're probably true. Chris Brogdon says, Jerry wants a puppet, not a head coach. Well, if he doesn't fire Jason Garett, then it's hard to disagree with you there. Eric Hoshane's not taking any of the crap from TJ Carpenter, that's for sure. Diego Maestas says, thoughts on getting Bruce Irvin before I play the Eagles? I mean, sure. Marcus Hawkins, I think Todd Haley should be brought in as a consultant if we keep throwing money at the problem. No, he shouldn't. It's the wrong direction. It's another guy that's like, I've got my schemes and this is what I do, and I'm unwavering in that. This is the old guard NFL the risk averse, this is what we do, and we're going to fit our players to do what we do NFL. Like that's not the wave of the future. That's not what teams are doing. That's not what innovative, smart offenses are doing. I mean, if you sit there on Sunday and watch football, you're going to see teams that are catering their schemes to fit the skill set of their players. Then you watch the Cowboys and you're like, oh man, what are they trying to do? Anthony Evans says you have to hurt Jerry Jones' pockets. As long as he fills the stadium and sells Cowboys products, he won't change. I mean, yeah, look, again, 15 years ago, Jerry Jones made all the decisions, and he wasn't going to listen to anybody else. Now, the Cowboys have a different organizational structure. You know, Stephen Jones and Will McClay, they're all part of the decision-making process. But if they don't fire Jason Garett, if they miss the playoffs, which it's looking abundantly clear like they're going to, then it's tough to defend Jerry Jones in any capacity moving forward. Tyson Lesko's Cowboy says, how you hurt a billionaire. True. I mean, and by the way, he changed that front office while still, while still making money, right? So the idea that Jerry, the idea that Jerry, you hit him in his pocketbook and he's gonna change things. I mean, he already did in some capacity change certain things. Again, with Stephen Jones being more involved, Will McClay, the head coach. But, I mean, yeah, there is just a general fan apathy and a feeling, for the most part, like this organization, this, this team is not heading in the right direction. And we've seen nothing this season that would lead us to believe that's not true. 8 weeks. What do we know about this team? 2 quarters of the season. 8 weeks. What do we know? We know that the offense is bad. We know that we know the offense is bad, and we know the defense might be on the verge of quitting on the offense. Rob Stackhouse, this team isn't being coached properly. Patrick Cook, I think he should have been done at least 2 years ago. And I've said the same thing about Jason Garett. Like, this was the first chance that they really have had to fire Jason Garett. I mean, they weren't going to fire him as long as Romo was here because he and Romo were married to each other because Romo was basically the de facto offensive coordinator. So they weren't going to fire him as long as Romo was here. So when you look at the post-Romo era, this is the opportunity. He wasn't going to fire him, obviously, after Dak's great rookie season. They weren't going to fire him after last season because there was legitimate excuses. So this is it. I mean, they weren't going to fire him before. They weren't going to fire him when Romo was here. Gerard Towler says, you see how many times we had no wide receivers running deep routes throughout the game? James Gonzalez says a change is coming, ... What do you think, James? What do you think that change is? Michael Hurt says, they an accident waiting to happen, in my Stephen A's voice. Can't throw the ball long. I mean, like, and again, we could sit here and second-guess play calling, and certainly I'm happy to do so, but so much of this just goes back to this like very basic and important point, which is you have to, as a play caller, as a coach, scheme to fit the skill set of your players. And that's not happening here. This is not a scheme that fits the quarterback. And the result of that is what this abomination of an offense has been. Tim Mariano wants to know if Bradford's an upgrade. I mean, look, we could sit here and go through different quarterbacks they could bring in free agency, but at this point, I mean, your best path of getting a legitimate franchise quarterback is by finding one and taking one in the first round of the draft. That's why I said when the Amari Cooper trade happened, I'm okay with the trade so long as they weren't going to take a quarterback in the first round. D. Jackson says the team's worth $5 billion and they suck. That's a good owner. Them sucking is the GM's fault. Agreed. And I mean, and it's not as if they don't have good personnel. Like, that's the problem here is they've got really good pieces. They just don't have a coach that's scheming to get them in the right position. Somebody on the Phantom page comments as Phantom that somehow is trying to, I don't know who's commenting as Phantom saying that they were right, but that's good for you for being right, whoever you are. Commenting as Phantom. Yes, you're always right, whoever you are, random Phantom person commenting. Rick Polito, Dak's release is measured in minutes, not seconds. Problem, he's number 2 in 2020. Robert Fowler, somebody should be fired today. My team looked worse after the bye week. Yeah, it's pretty inexcusable. All right, what else you guys got? I mean, Sean Lee, his career looks like it could be over. Another injury for Sean Lee. So that's always tough to see. What will his legacy be? For Sean Lee, great player, great leader, couldn't stay on the field enough. But my feeling on the future of the quarterback position is they've got to draft a quarterback in the first round. Sean Moore says, "Hey Ari, tell me I was just being a negative or being a Debbie Downer now." You were not. I forget what you were saying, what you were complaining about yesterday. As long as winning is 4th or 5th on Jerry's list, we're mediocre at best. And look, again, I think if Jerry does go ahead and fire Jason Garett after the season and looks for a legitimate, young, innovative, smart coach, then we can, again, put that to rest. But if he continues to go with Jason Garett, then I think that's obvious. All right, here's Tyson, the West Coast Cowboy, everybody. What's up, Tyson?
What's up with you, brother?
How's it going? What do you got?
Man, I know I'm a different man than I was last year, man, because for whatever reason, even my wife said, I'm starting to handle these losses better. I don't know what she meant by that, but she told me that I'm actually handling these losses better, meaning that I'm getting used to it or they're getting more favorable. But one thing that I just wanted to put out there is I'm seeing a lot of people saying that, they're not going to support the bloggers. Support the bloggers, man. Support people like Ari, support people like West Coast, support people like Phantom, because we are consistently giving you guys the honest information. Jerry Jones's job is to put out there a perception of what he wants to see. Like, if you really, really understand Jerry Jones, as much as he said the stuff about Dak Prescott, honestly, it shouldn't surprise you because he's done it before.
Right.
Like, he's done it before. And the thing about Jerry Jones is he feels that it's more important that we feel that the situation is right than for him to have those uncomfortable conversations with Dak Prescott. The fact that he's still saying stuff like that lets me know that him and Jason Garett really aren't having those uncomfortable conversations. Now, just looking at from my eye view, and because all 22 comes out today at 12, so I'll have a way better view of it when I actually watch the film. But my biggest thing is this: like, that game was such a remnant. It reminded me of the Giants game, whereas the Giants game, our whole mindset was to come out there and get a score on the board, and then from that point on, our whole mindset it just goes away. I mean, we're very, very eager on our first drive. But after that, you don't see no Zeke involved. You pretty much see the Dak Prescott. You see the Cowboys wanting to win a certain way. Now, a playoff team, a team that wants to win a Super Bowl, they do not care how they win. Yes, the Saints won 7 games straight, but everybody forget 2 weeks ago that Drew Brees had a game where he only had 120 yards. But guess what? They don't care because they're doing whatever they got to do to win. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I don't see with the Dallas Cowboys. I see that Jerry Jones has a way that he wants to win. And if we can't win that way, then we can't be successable. Because a playoff team, a team that wants to win, would not care. We should have won the game with Ezekiel Elliott. The Titans have played 7 games before they played us. 5 games. 5 out of 7 games, they've given up 121 yards. Now, you tell me 5 running backs off the top of your head that you think can get 120 yards in a game, and not one of them is Zeke. Well, Zeke didn't have 120 yards last night.
No, he did
Why
not.
didn't that happen?
And I think, Tyson, your apathy, I mean, that's what it is. You're saying, you're taking losses better now because there's an apathy there because of the coaching staff, because the problems aren't getting fixed. So there's almost this expectation now. And that's like, I would imagine most of the people that are watching the stream right now feel the same as you as far as like these losses are easier to take. They're not getting as upset because there's a certain expectation now with this team, with this organization. And that's why Jerry's going to have to make a move, because there's an apathy from his fan base. And that's, loved, hated, those are good things to be, but apathy is where they can't be, and that's where they seem to be.
And the one thing I love about the one thing that made people love Jerry Jones is Jerry Jones always gave you hope. Like Jerry Jones always, Jerry Jones would pay for hope. Like Roy Williams, that was hope. Like we had something very promising, and Jerry Jones wanted to keep it going, so he paid for it. And I know people compare Amari Cooper to him, but I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. Amari Cooper looked like he looked like a number one wide receiver.
Totally, he looked great.
And the fact that him looking like a number one wide receiver, in my opinion, that has to step the level of play up for everybody, because now the pieces are there. They're there.
Well, and that's the thing that's frustrating about Dak too, because it's like he's gonna be better because Amari Cooper's a legitimate number one, and you've got Zeke, and now Beasley's better because you have a legitimate number one, and I mean, Dak didn't look much better. That's the most damning part. It's a given that he's going to be a better player with a legitimate number one, but he didn't even look better. At least not in his first opportunity with it.
Yeah, and then it's something I always tell my kids. Like when I buy you something on Christmas, the luxury of you having a toy is you get to play with it on the 26th, the 27th, the 28th. You get to play with it all the way up until it breaks. So just because you get the toy on Christmas, you can go play with your other toys. Why? Because that's your toy. That's your toy. And like last night, Dak Prescott, like honestly, it was Christmas. He got that new shiny toy, and it's like despite all plays, it was we're gonna go right rover, left ghost C, YXZ, and in his mind, he thought I'm throwing the ball to Cooper. And on the touchdown, on the interception inside the end zone, like that's people always say, well, there's pressure. He has to do this. Well, you got to remember, Dak Prescott knows the play because he's calling it. So he does not have to see the wide receiver open. As fans, we always see that because we see that on TV. But this is what you guys got to understand. He knows the play. So he doesn't have to see the wide receiver. That's why it's called timing. That's why that word that I absolutely hate, chemistry, you know what I'm saying? Because what does chemistry mean? Like, what does that really mean? You know what I'm saying? So that's what they work on it so that they can have that. If he has to see the route, that means there is no chemistry. That means there is no nothing there. There's no trust there, right? Because trust starts when I can't see you anymore. If I can see everything you do, I don't need to trust you. Why? Because I can see you. It's like I tell my kids, I don't trust you. Why? Because I can see you. I can see you with my eyes. I start trusting you when I leave. You know what I'm saying? When I got to leave and be honest and see what you're going to do. And that's what it is. There's no trust on either side. And we can't keep saying that wide receivers aren't getting separation because, at the end of the day, separation doesn't separate you scoring touchdowns or getting – separation just makes the throw easier. It makes the game easier. But, people have scored many touchdowns without having, a lot of separation. I know a guy that we said couldn't get no separation, but he oddly was able to score 73 touchdowns. So that just kills that whole premise of you got to have separation.
And that's That's the reason Dez Bryant's not with the Cowboys anymore, because he can't create separation.
Exactly, but on the it's like what they say. Ari, if I had ID, I wouldn't need ID. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like you go to the DMV, they'd be like, you go to the DMV to get your ID. You're like, well, I need to see identification. Well, sir, I'm here to get an ID. Well, how can I have one without the other? If I had an ID, I wouldn't need an ID. You know what I mean? That doesn't make any sense. They got to fix that too.
That's Tyson, West Coast Cowboy. You can check him out at the Dallas Cowboys scouting page, but I'm sure you already know. Tyson, you're the man, buddy. Appreciate you calling in.
Appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, be well.
Right, brother.
Talk soon. It's Tyson, West Coast Cowboy, Dallas Cowboys scouting. Well said. I mean, you isolate this game in particular, and Dak Prescott was really bad throughout. Whether it was taking sacks, not taking care of the football, forcing a throw to Amari Cooper in the red zone that wasn't ever there. I mean, you can go down the list. And then it sort of goes back to this, well, I mean, he's just not fit for this scheme. This is a scheme that has him read the entire field, and he's clearly not there yet in his development. And so now this goes to coaching, which is the coaches are trying to trust him to do more than he's comfortable or able to do. And then it's like, well, who do you blame for that? Well, you certainly blame the quarterback, because how can you not? The quarterback's played poorly. But you also have to blame the head coach and the offensive play caller. And that's like in 2018, when you have a team that consistently can't score 20 points a game, which, by the way, they're at 19 and a quarter after 8 weeks, 19.25 points per game. Like that's an embarrassment in the modern day NFL. You have to score at least 25 to be winning football games consistently, as evidenced by the last night's game. You score 25, you win the game. Look at the outcome of most of these games. The winners are going to have between 24 and 30 points every game. Every game. Cowboys can't get there. Why? Because they have a quarterback that's not fit for this scheme and a scheme that's not fit for this quarterback, and they insist on running it. And everything else that Tyson just said. There's no chemistry. There's a lack of trust because it's a new group. Dak Prescott couldn't be bothered to go to Oakland to work out with Amari Cooper. It's not going to make a huge difference, but it's these small things that do make a difference. There's a lot of blame that falls here at Dak Prescott. There's a ton more blame to go to Jason Garett. And if I'm picking one as a priority to be gone over the other, it's Jason Garett. But that's only because Dak Prescott's in year number 3. And he has a skill set you can work with. Does that mean he's a $100 million quarterback? Probably not. From what we've seen so far, with this season being a major deciding piece, no. No. He's not. But still, you have to continue to see the development out. And certainly, I'd like to see the development with a new scheme and a new coach. Sam Torres says, what trade value would Lee have in the offseason? None. They're going to release him. Beverly Canales says, I love Dak. He only did good when Romo was coaching him the first year. My God, please. Where did this come from, people? This is not true. Please stop. Mark Sanchez was the guy that Dak attributes his success to his rookie year. Tony Romo was, first of all, he was rehabbing to come back from the injury, and then he was competing with Dak Prescott for his job. Tony Romo was not the reason that Dak Prescott had success his rookie year. If there's anybody we want to give that credit to, it's Mark Sanchez. But even then, it's like, we just have to continue to stop making excuses for a guy that's not playing well. I've never seen, like, when we continue to make all these excuses for all these different things, like, it's on them. Sean Moore, the Cowboys haven't taken a first-round quarterback since Troy Aikman. And they hadn't drafted, they've only drafted 2 quarterbacks. Well, I guess they did draft, so now 3 quarterbacks since then too, right? Like Stephen McGee, Mike White, and Dak Prescott. The only 3 quarterbacks they've drafted since, I mean, not even just not taking quarterbacks in the first round, but not taking quarterbacks at all in the draft. Yeah, Deer and headlights for Brian Hernandez. Yep. Efren Moreno, bring back Mark Sanchez. And this is where we blame Scott Linehan, because for some reason the Cowboys decided this offseason, hey, let's just go all in on Scott Linehan, because I don't know why. I have no idea why. Why would you go all in on Scott Linehan unless you're crazy? That's what the Cowboys did, though. So, I mean, they basically allowed him to hire the offensive line coach that he wanted. They allowed him to hire the quarterbacks coach that he wanted. They fired Wade Wilson to bring in Kellen Moore because Scott Linehan wanted that. They fired Frank Pollock to bring in Paul Alexander because Scott Linehan wanted that. They released Des Bryant and didn't go pursue a legitimate number 1 wideout because Scott Linehan wanted that. Quincy Carter. Good point. I missed another one. So 4 quarterbacks. And with Steve, I'm trying to figure, Steve McGee was a pick. Yes, he's not an undrafted free agent. They did draft Stephen McGee. So Quincy Carter, Stephen McGee, Dak Prescott, and Mike White. Those are the 4 quarterbacks they've drafted since Troy Aikman. Efren Moreno wants to know who the Cowboys have that can get them a first-round pick. Probably nobody. I mean, they're not going to have a first-round pick in this draft. I mean, unless they trade a future first to get back into the first. Or unless they package a couple of picks later to get in the first. But, I mean, I don't know. But I also think, like, when a quarterback starts to perform poorly, now we start to like, well, it's Kellen Moore, it's this, it's that. I mean, it's like, certainly, these are components of it. But, like, we're reaching really, really far when we're like, well, Kellen Moore is the reason for it. No. I mean, is Kellen Moore an influence? Does he bear some responsibility? Sure. But, I mean, Dak Prescott's playing poorly because while he's out there, he's not able to process the information that he needs to process as fast as he needs to process it. And you can tell. That's on him, and it's on the coaching staff, more importantly, because they've designed schemes that don't fit his skill set. He's not a multiple read quarterback, at least not now. And part of that's part of that is having to start right away. Like, Romo had the luxury to sit for 4 years, but they don't have that luxury. The clock is ticking, and that's the issue here. Is people are like, well, he's young and he's still developing, and it's like that can be true, but so can also the decision to not move forward with him because you don't have much time to make a decision on him. You know, with Romo as an undrafted free agent sitting on the bench, you had as much time as you needed. Dak Prescott, the clock is ticking. If he'd sit on the bench this whole time, clock's not ticking as much. The clock's ticking. He's a 4th-round pick, so it's a 4-year contract. There's no 5th-year option. So they have to make a decision now, regardless of how inexperienced he is and how legitimate that is as an excuse. G. Garcia says, I think Sam Bradford would come in here and do good. I don't think so. Neil Favre says, vote for Lincoln Riley. And Eric Koshaney says, Lincoln staying in Oklahoma. I don't know that. I think if the Cowboys came calling, Lincoln Riley, it'd be very difficult for him to turn down that opportunity. I mean, I know some people don't look at this as a good destination, but I disagree. Maybe I'm wrong. Daniel Griffith says, look at how Kansas City's playing offensive plays designed to the quarterback's strengths. What a bizarre thing to do for Andy Reid. It's almost like he's a really smart offensive coach. Oh, and Doug Peterson and Matt Nagy and Sean McVay and Lincoln Riley and Cliff Kingsbury and Joe DiFilippo and on and on and on. Coaches that are designing their play calling and their schemes to fit their players. What a novel concept. My God. Brian Walker says Brian Kelly would be a good fit. Sure. I mean, at this point, anybody that's not Jason Garrett would be a good fit. I mean, my God, I'd take Lane Kiffin at this point. All right, probably not. But, I mean, it's this tired old, this is what we do, this is how we're going to do it. And, the main talking point today, if you listen to Dallas media and Dallas radio, and I was listening to 105 through the Fan today, and we were talking about it last night on the Fan on the postgame show. I mean, it's the old Albert Einstein quote of the definition of insanity is continuing to do the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So it's on us for expecting this thing to look differently on Sundays. And then we're amazed when it doesn't, because we know what we've known about this coaching staff for a while now. And certainly, if we haven't for a while now, we've known it for the last 8 weeks. Neil Favre's Barry Switzer available. All right, I'm Ari Temkin. This is Showtime. Thank you to everybody that is a part of our great community. It grows each and every day, so thank you for those of you who continue to be a part of this show and this community every single day. Those that don't, hope you come back time and time again. If this is your first time, I'm Ari Temkin. Nice to meet you. Hopefully you'll be back again tomorrow at 12 p.m. Central so we can continue to grow our community, thus infusing more opinions, more smart opinions, more discussion points on the Dallas Cowboys. Ross McCaden says, I live in Nashville. Worst game they could have lost for me. Sorry, buddy. Yeah, I feel you. All right, thank you to the Showtimers, the people that are part of this community that stream the show every single day. This show wouldn't exist without you. That's Neil Favre, Eric Koshaney, Ty Shelton, Dakota Stiegel, Corey Miller, Sam Torres, Sean Moore, Brian Hernandez, Steve Eason, Dean Cruisinger, Ross McCaden, Gerard Towler, Marquise Blaze, Keith Price, G. Garcia, Ninja Nuts, Tyler Cutright, Keith Jones, Chris Bennett, and on and on and on. David Alejandre, thank you guys for being a part of this community, being a part of this show, being as much a part of the show as I am. If this is your first time, welcome. Hope we'll see you back tomorrow again at 12 o'clock Central. And of course, tons of great additional Cowboys content on the way. This is Phantom, putting you at the center of the Dallas sports discussion. But for now, I'm out, everybody. Peace.